afternoon, YouTube followers. Thank you so much for joining me for another video in our Lost Buildings series. I'm Kathy, and I want to talk to you today about Building 19. Now, right now, we are in Pettigrew State Park. The campground is right over here to my left, and the lake is over here to my right. But in 1843, we would have been in the enslaved community. We would have been in the quarters. And Building 19 was actually where the Littlejohn family lived. They were an enslaved family here at Somerset Place, and their house would have looked very much like Judy and Lewis's house. So if you come on our tours, you can see Judy and Lewis's house reconstructed. It would have been the first in that line of 23 single-family homes, but in total, there were 26 homes in the enslaved community. So right now, I am standing in roughly the location of Building 19, which was the home of the Littlejohn family. Peter was 61 and Elsie was 47. Peter and Elsie had 8 of their kids living with them, including Peter, who was the second oldest son. He was 23, he was unmarried. And then also teenage sons George, John, David, and Samuel living with them as well. Then they had a teenage daughter, Sue, and then younger daughters, Cecilia and Tennessee, and Quarantine the youngest at age 6. And there were 3 individuals we're not really sure how they were related. Pinky, Josh, and Bill, who may have been grandkids. And I just want to point out that these 13 individuals would have lived in an 18 by 18 house right here. Now, Peter and Elsie did not always live together with all their children on one plantation. Elsie was actually brought to Somerset in 1826 when she was purchased by Josiah II from a John Wilson Littlejohn, and she'd been living in Edenton. And Peter had been owned by the Collinses since 1797, but he and Elsie had likely been on adjoining plantations in Edenton, and then they were separated after he was brought first to Somerset Place. So in 1826, when Elsie was sold to Josiah II, along with 6 of her children at that time, she reunited with Peter here at Somerset Place. So in 1843, when we have this record of Peter and Elsie living in this house along with their children and people who may have been their grandchildren, we know that their older children, Fred, Amy, and Mary, were married and living in other houses in the slave quarters very close by. So their daughter Mary actually married Diamond Reeves, a blacksmith, and their daughter Amy married Mac Treadwell, who was a highly skilled artisan and valued at about $1,000 on the slave market. And then their son Fred was actually a gardener, so he worked in the owner's compound, so he had a slightly better position in terms of his job because he was working in the owner's compound in Mary Riggs Collins's garden. So during the Civil War, the Collins family actually sought refuge in the Hillsborough area, so they did not stay here, but the enslaved people were here for a while. And in 1862, some federal troops came through, and we're going to put some links in the description, and you can read those letters because they're very interesting. And one of the letters talks about how when the federal troops were trying to bridle and steal horses, Elsie and Peter's son Fred, who was the gardener, he actually helped them do that. Even though the pastor who was here, he was kind of in charge of the plantation while the Collinses were in Hillsborough, he told Fred to stay in the orchard and mind the fruit trees. But Fred helped the federal troops steal horses. So please click on that link in the description and read those letters. They're very interesting. After federal troops visited Somerset Place, Josiah actually moved the able-bodied enslaved workers to a new plantation in Franklin County. And this was a time when he was really trying to maintain his control and authority over the enslaved people, and he was trying to make some kind of money during the war. So at that time, Elsie was separated from 4 of her kids and 22 of her grandchildren. But they were reunited after the war here at Somerset. And we do know that Elsie lived past 1870, so we know that she did experience legal freedom. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. Please post some comments, some questions. And if you like our Lost Buildings videos, if you like our other videos, please subscribe to our channel and have a great day.